Okay, I don't know if I can tell this one any better than the script, so I'm going to stick kind of close to it, okay? Uh, saying that, I'm already thinking something else here. But now Bob was old. I'm not really sure how old, but he's well past 65, probably just slightly older than I am now.
Mm.
Anyway, so he chiseled out a living wage by combining his Social Security and a small but aggressive recycling business. And about 4 nights a week, he was working cooking graveyard. You guys know what graveyard is, right? 11 to 7, when people are normally home and in bed. Anyway, he didn't really have the stamina to work any other shift. But after 11, especially on weeknights, life slowed down to a crawl, and Bob could sit on one of those giant tins of the deep fat fryer oil and smoke the night away. Did I say smoke? Yeah, it was against the rules to smoke even in the kitchen, even back in the 70s. Just about every place else was okay. You could smoke in the bathroom, you could smoke in the back room, you could even smoke in the dining room. I don't think we had a smoking section. That's right. So we had non-smoking, but you could smoke anywhere. But that would have required a walk of just a few steps, and Bob was saving steps. So besides, in the middle of the night, nobody was really checking on the Ten Commandments for cooks, and so when surprised, Bob could crush out that little cigarette in his palm. He'd been cooking off and on for 50 years or so, and his hands were like leather. I mean, just yeah, and it didn't really bother him too much. And besides that, the managers didn't really want to catch him. They couldn't get the young guys, usually like me, to work the graveyard. And even when they did, they didn't stay long. It turned young men old real fast. So bodies cry out for sleep in the middle of the night, and young guys don't usually learn to sleep during the day. And so Bob warned me on my first night of training. So I must be 18, maybe 19. I can't remember now. So he told me, "Go home and sleep." Bob preached. He's waving his spatula in my face. "Don't go to the bank. Don't go to the store. And don't go anywhere with your friends. You got one job when you leave here. You got to get 6 to 7 hours sleep." He wanted me fresh for the bar run. So I put foil on my windows and do everything I can. Summertime in California, boy, it's hard to get sleep in the daytime. Anyway, so bar run. You know what the bar run is? Okay. I don't know if it still works this way, but back in the 70s, when the bars closed at 2 a.m., everyone who had a few drinks in them suddenly got really, really hungry. And they ordered big steak, shakes, burgers, fries, lots and lots of fries. And weekdays there'd be just a minor bump but on the weekends, Fridays and Saturday nights, it could be crazy. In fact, it was probably the busiest time I ever worked at the restaurant. Fridays and Saturday nights. Not every Friday and Saturday, but some busy ones would be that way. So the graveyard would come to life, and for a frantic hour, the food and the cash would flow. It would be noisy, and it was a wild time. Anyway, the pressure was on. We had to earn our night's wages in those 60 minutes, and the waitresses had to cover as many tables as they could just to pick up their tips. Anyway, so Bob, being older at that time, needed my legs. I had the young legs, and he couldn't keep the pace anymore. But I needed his knowledge because I was absolutely lost without him. I didn't know what I was doing. So we made a pretty good team. And Bob didn't mind training new guys because we were willing to listen to the old stories and to orders. He cooked his way through the worst of the 30s. He didn't really want someone telling him how to get things done. He'd say things like, "When you've cooked as long as I have, I'll start listening to you." And of course, we'd say, "Bob, no one's cooked as long as you have." And he said, "That's right." And he flashed one of his Gandhi like smiles. His few remaining teeth were white and polished. Bob had been in love his whole life, not always with the same lady, but with someone always. I think he was on his fourth or fifth marriage when I met him. And I met the wife once. He invited me over for dinner or breakfast or whatever it was. We finished a shift. And she was quite happy with Bob. She found him late in life, and she was glad to have landed this hard-working man. If Bob was awake, he was working. Anyway, so he recycled the glass and plastic, like I said, and even those huge metal tins he'd use for chairs when they were empty, he'd recycle those as well. And he hustled it all into the back of his old pickup and drove it to the recycling center so he'd collect another 12 or 15 bucks. "It all counts," Bob said. "Get yourself a pickup, James. A man can make a lot of money with a truck." So how long are you going to keep this up, I asked. As long as I can, he said. Got to, man's got to eat, got to feed a family. So Bob had an assortment of kids along the way. I don't really know how many. Most were grown, long gone, but this new wife had one of her own. And so there was still a teenager in the house. Just another year or two, and he'll be out on his own. And then you'll quit? Hell no. What would I do retired? Got plenty of time to rest when we're dead. So Bob and Quinn did not get along. Remember Quinn from the previous story? So when they worked together, it was just a silent war. With those missing teeth, Bob could be a little fuzzy-mouthed and hard to understand. He was also losing his hearing, and Quinn's accent was just as incomprehensible to him. They never knew what each other was saying. Anyway, Quinn thought Bob was lazy, and Bob thought Quinn would be happier at home in Vietnam. And he told him more than once. Anyway, when Quinn moved to the swing shift, Bob would follow him 4 or 5 nights a week. And Quinn was lightning fast, but he tended to work kind of like a tornado. Bob wanted him to stay and clean up, even if it was on his own time. And Quinn was usually on his way to the next job. He's going over to the Ramada Inn to cook. He didn't have time to stay. And he didn't like getting yelled at. He would yell back. So for about 20 minutes or so during the handover, voices would be raised, pots would be slammed, sometimes a plate or two would crack. And getting along with both of them kind of gave me job security. The boss needed someone to act as a buffer. I was a young one, fresh, inexperienced, willing to listen, willing to learn, and willing to clean up. I'd always take care of the mess when somebody was gone. So it was a position of power. The managers were constantly trying to piece together a schedule where people would work together without pulling their hair out. And as long as I could keep everybody happy, the cooks, the customers, the servers, I could keep working. And there was always work to do, even in the middle of the night. On the weeknights, we pre-cooked the bacon and the sausage. We cracked eggs ahead of time for omelets, egg batter. We sliced tomatoes. We stocked the kitchen. We cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. So a 24-hour kitchen gets pretty dirty after a full day's work. And Bob liked the kitchen clean. So Bob was still working when I left Sandy's, but his days were definitely numbered. As a cook and in life, he was taking less and less shifts. He'd been a smoker since he was 12, and he wasn't exactly a teetotaler either. So he fought with life every step of the way, kind of like a boxer with a strong left jab. But time's catching up, and Bob wasn't going to win every battle. He got sick, I think it was that last year I was there, and he was really slow to recover. Finally, they brought a new guy in to pick up some shifts. He was young, he was quick, he moved like Quinn, and they got along well, he and Quinn did. And when we worked the bar run together, I had to rush to keep up with both of them. He was that good. He was just a kid, maybe 18 years old. He was long and thin, which is a good shape for a cook. And he had to tie his shoulder-length brown hair, okay? So it'd still be a few years before he needed to shave, okay? So he's a young guy. He looked smooth, and he was playing it cool, getting along with everyone, and even Quinn. And I wondered what Bob would say when he got back on his feet. As old as he was, I was pretty sure he wasn't ready to quit yet. He still needed the money. Would this new kid be able to charm him as well? Would this? I didn't have too long to wait. The next weekend, Bob was back on the job, sitting on the can and barking orders, and the new guy was running this way and that. Just happy to be there. It looked like things were going to work out all right after all. But what about those lost shifts, Bob? What about the cash? Hell, who needs it, Bob said. Time for him to earn the check. I hadn't figured it out yet. The new guy was Bob's son.